for your leadership. I will project my voice. I will. You know what I think I'll do? I think I'll move back here a little bit. Yeah. That's how I propose.
My father bought him a step ladder as a wedding present.
Look, you may think that the Revolutionary War ended it all. It did not, okay? So, look, is it everybody inside now? We got everyone in? Okay, great. Thanks to all of you for being here today. This is a remarkable turnout, and it really is testimony to the intensity of feeling about this issue, about people being able to have a right to determine how their food's made, what's in their food. This is a fundamental right. And here in Oregon, we're seeing a passionate response to the corporation's efforts to try to crush that right. And you are that response. And I know, because of your efforts, that Measure 92 is going to get a resounding yes. What do you think? Throughout my career, I've been involved in campaigns which people have said, you're never going to have a chance to win. And because I never paid attention to that, because for me, throughout my career I've had something like 32 elections, not counting any presidential races, and 40 elections, and I've won 32. And here's how I was able to win those races, not with the help from these big money people, but people like yourselves who come together in groups, who knock on doors, who make the phone calls, who use today using social media, who are visible. This is a visible movement across this state, and that is going to make all the difference. It's so encouraging to see not just this turnout today, but to see how people are vitally involved in reclaiming the power of their own citizenship, because that's what this moment is about. And people all over the United States are watching Oregon, because this could be the place where there's a big breakthrough on behalf of the rights of the people, not just to be able to know how their food is made or what's in their food, but an even deeper meaning, the deeper meaning of citizens coming together to reclaim the whole civic sphere of activity which corporations want to pretend they can take for themselves. Well, no more, and Oregon is going to be the place where years ago, when I introduced the first labeling bill in the United States Congress, I saw how the Monsantos of the world went to work immediately to try to stop any public hearings and to try to frustrate any effort in Congress to get some visibility on the issue. So through 14 years in Congress, I served 16, but through 14 years in Congress, I worked this issue, and I started to learn how the Food and Drug Administration made a decision back in 1992 with science that already existed to the contrary, but they made a decision that said that genetically modified organisms were the functional equivalent of conventional food. That was actually a lie. But what happened is, we now are visited with this, and yet here in Oregon, there's this chance to break through and to change the direction. So Elizabeth and I are here knowing the power that you're exhibiting and how we want to encourage that. We want to encourage in the next few days, you just tell everybody to get those votes in. This isn't about turn out anymore. This is about turning them in. It's a different kind of election. And because of that, your rousing the people here is so critical. Now, my involvement has been inside the legislature on this issue. Elizabeth's involvement has been multifaceted, but one of the things that she did is she's the executive producer of the film GMO, OMG. Which just last week won the top picture award from the environmental media And you know, among her many credits, she is the policy director at the Center for Food Safety in Washington, which is the premier public action group dealing with issues such as we're visiting here in Oregon, and also is on the board of the Rodale Institute, one of the oldest organic agriculture organization in the country. She knows this issue inside out, and I can tell you that to have the chance to be with her on the road goes way beyond when we all got together before. This is I'm here with a sense of joy, and I'm here with my dear wife, and Elizabeth, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Who's seen GMO OMG? Yeah, quite a few. Do you like it? Yeah. Good. And who's received their ballots? Who sent them back? That's what we're here for. We're here for Mark X on the spot. Yes on 92. Get those ballots back in the mail. You got till Halloween, but we need them in this afternoon because we want those votes to really count. So we're here, obviously, this is a right-to-know issue. This is about transparency. Everybody should have the right to know what they're eating. And it's an abomination that there's so much money that has gone into so many campaigns around the country to prevent people from knowing that. But beyond the right-to-know issue, I'd like to take a few minutes just to talk about the potential for agriculture. So we know that GMOs really get us on a path of a pesticide treadmill. There's two types of GMOs that we have in our system. There's many kinds of GMOs, but there's two types that are the predominating types. One is pesticide-producing. The other is herbicide-resisting. Either way, we're seeing an enormous amount more toxins going into our food and into our bodies. Let's just take the herbicide-resisting GMOs, like Roundup-ready corn and soy. Those are these magic seeds that enable you to spray herbicide directly on your food so you can eat your toxins straight. But
yeah.
We've been able to do that because usually the herbicides would kill everything. So this is how you can eat your pesticide-laden soy and corn. But what's happened, though, what we found in the Rodale Institute and what farmers have found all around the country is that after a few years of spraying glyphosate on their crops, that weeds become resistant to glyphosate. So we're seeing these super weeds develop, and they develop very strong, they're growing very, very fast, and they're becoming very prolific across the country. We have an industry is estimating 80 million acres of American cropland now is blighted with what they're calling super weeds that are resistant to this herbicide. So then after you put glyphosate on the crops, and that's not working, there's a next level, and then a next level. The final level that we're at right now, because plants do evolve, is just last week 2,4-D, which is half of Agent Orange. Anybody know about Agent Orange? Yeah. Is it a good thing?
No.
Not really. Not really. It's an awful defoliant, very, very high in dioxins. 2,4-D is 50% of Agent Orange. We know what it did to our veterans. There's a gentleman from Veterans for Peace here, and as Dennis and I were in Iowa last week talking to a group of veterans, Vietnam veterans came up to us afterwards and said, this is an abomination. We know what this dioxin does to us. We know what 2,4-D does to the human population. Why on earth would be spraying this now all over our fields and all over our food supply? 2,4-D drifts up to 10 miles. So it's not just the field that it goes on. It can spread into our environment at an enormous rate. So I am very concerned about our children. I'm very concerned about our water and our land. So we have to stop this treadmill, and it's a consciousness which is really chemical warfare with nature that we're developing now. Whereas the counter to that is regenerative organic agriculture.
Yeah.
For our soils, we can purify our food supply. Rodale Institute, again, I like to quote them, but in our farm systems trial, we've shown how genetically engineered crops and organic crops yield very similarly. And in times of extreme weather conditions, it's actually the organic crops that outperform genetically engineered. Of feeding the world through GMOs is really a bogus one. And the whole claim that GMOs have caused for a decrease in the use of chemicals is completely the opposite to what we're seeing in reality. So what you are doing on the front lines now for the labeling of GMOs is so important because we're really raising the consciousness of people in this country to say you are actually eating this stuff and GMOs exist. And this is the first step to really understanding what our food is and what it means to our health. So thank you for all
Thank
that
you.
you're doing.
Thank you.
Go at some point to the airport this afternoon, please stick around and then do as much volunteering as you can to get people to send their ballots back to.
Okay, so what's the message in the next 2 days? Send the ballots in. What is it? Send the ballots in. What is it? Send the ballots in. I can't hear you. Send the ballots in. That's the message. You got it. And when that message gets across Oregon, Measure 92 is going to be a big yes. It'll be so big, they'll hear it all over Monsanto land and all over the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Yay! So, any questions or comments or, we're here to hear what you have to say as well. Anybody have any
question?
Yes.
Why did you mention the Feisty Woman Award?
Well, I'm traumatized. That's no. Last week in Iowa, an organization that's 100 years old that was founded by Jane Addams, who in 1931 won a Nobel Peace Prize for her work in peace and for her work in founding this organization, which is the International League of Women for Peace and Freedom. And annually they give an award to, it's called the Feisty Woman Award. Strong Feisty Woman. and here she is. She's with us. Elizabeth had quite a week last week. She was accorded that honor, and she was also named to the board of UNRWA USA, which helps to guide the good, the security and the safety as much as possible, and the survival of Palestinian refugees.
Yeah.
So. And then yesterday, as some of you know, we've already sent a lot of messages out in our household. On the day of our birth, we set that day aside to be able to focus to create the world that we want for the next year. Well, yesterday was Elizabeth's birthday. Here she is. So, yes, anyone else? Hello? Yes.
Can we stop the next step of Monsanto to ban GMO labeling at the federal level? So they're going to attempt to ban it at the state level with a federal, yes, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the question was about whether the chemical companies and big ag will actually be able to prevent GMO labeling from happening at a federal level. So Congressman Pete DeFazio has a great bill, which is the Right to Know legislation. That's a bill that we really like, and that's one that we want to be supporting, and it's making headway. It's got some good support in Congress. But on the other side, there's the Pompeo bill, and there's a couple of things that the Pompeo bill does, which is really not good. It would preempt states from being able to label. It would preempt the federal government from being able to mandate labeling. It would codify GMOs as natural. It does other things too, but basically we don't want it. So we have to make sure that we move in the direction of once this is passed here, this conversation is going straight to Washington. I mean, it really is. The big ag will make sure that happens. So we have to make sure that we have our legislators and everybody else is around the country, because I know that you're all connected on social media, so tell everyone else that we really need the DeFazio bill supported and that one to move forward. Because what industry does so well, and you see it and experience it and hear it on your ads that you have on the television now, they take a little thing and they spin it round. They take a truth and then they turn it into a lie. And that's what we're seeing in Washington. They've created these think tanks that are all about safe and affordable food, and there's something about, great labeling, federal labeling standards. That's what they stand for, but completely undermining that messaging with the policies that they're putting forward. So,
before we answer the next question, here's a copy of the Constitution or Declaration. I keep it in case the other one disappears. I have the copy. But to further answer the question that was raised about what happens if Monsanto, not what happens, they will go to the federal level and seek to try to pass a federal law to nullify what happened here. But I will tell you something, that they've got a problem because the Constitution in the 10th Amendment makes it very clear that states have rights. I mean, you're not only, you're covering agriculture for Oregon here, not just for the country. So the point is that they're looking at a constitutional challenge, and so make sure that whoever your state's attorney is here, that they're, which by the way is charged with enforcing this law. When you read the Measure 92, which is a very good summary written with the help of the Center, right, for Food Safety. When you read it, you see that the state's attorney is to make sure that it's enforced. Well, let's say that it'll be the state's attorney responsibility to make sure that Oregon's position that it said that the people have a right to do this. And the Constitution, the 10th Amendment, basically says that the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to by the states, are reserved to the states, respectively to the people. So this is a power, what you're doing here, you have a right to do. Think of what Monsanto's supposition here, that they're maintaining you not only do not have a right to know, but you don't have a right to even ask for the right to know. and that's why it's so important that we use these next few days to get this thing passed, because when Measure 92 passes, and then Oregon's standing among the states to say, you're not going to take our rights away.
Damn right.
We're going to take your rights away. It's time to start attacking the whole idea of corporations being people. We're finding out that if in fact they are people, some of them are very bad people. Next question.
I wanted to ask if there's any way of using young people, like my daughter who's been raised organically, and with a sense of her government and how it works, to participate in this, because when you last met her, she was this big, and this grows into a healthy person very quickly, or an unhealthy person very quickly if we don't do things now.
Well,
can I ask the same question?
Have you talked to, did they talk about this at school?
Absolutely. I talk about it at school.
Great.
I think it needs to be a class. There's teenage health, but they don't teach us about how to actually differentiate between what is healthy and what isn't healthy. They say eat vegetables, but what kind of vegetables?
Get involved with what Rodale's doing. They've been doing it since
Well, I would say right now, in the next few days, using social media to connect with young people at schools across Oregon, you could really be instrumental in reminding, the parents to make sure they vote and vote yes. This is really important. So, young people, I know that children do have an influence inside the house. They pick up information that comes in the house, but they also can have an influence. So, your future.
Could you talk about your own evolution into politics? Yeah, the age, how old you were, what you did.
Oh yeah, well I mean I started with when President Kennedy was running. I got involved with student groups. When I first ran for city council, I was only 20 years old. I was knocking on doors already. Most kids when they're children, they have a wooden playpen. I had a ballot box. The whole idea is to get young people involved early, and this is a perfect opportunity because there's something happening now, and the young people can also on election night when the returns come in, can be celebratory about the fact they played a role in it.
Since you haven't been serving as a congressman, what has been your main focus and passion and inspiration?
Well, in the last, since I left Congress on January the 3rd, 2013, and subsequent polls have showed that as soon as I left, my approval rating went up. So that was okay. And of course, Elizabeth and I have been staying involved nationally. I spent time writing a book, which you'll be hearing about some other time, about my experience as mayor of Cleveland and fighting the state municipal electric system. By the way, as a result of that, I came this close, like by one vote. I think it was a 5-4 vote, of being the general manager of the Emerald Public Utility District back in 1982.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been out this way, let's say, before. Anyhow, but what we're doing right now, which is so important, is that we've been traveling the country to ask people to imagine a journey this country can take from the terror of 9/11 to 11/11, which was the day of armistice from World War I. 9/11 to 11/11, from terror to armistice, peace, reconciliation, and to ask people to join with us to essentially define for all of us and for themselves and for the country, what does national security mean? Does it mean
World peace.
Well, does it mean more bombs and drone strikes and everything abroad, or how do they define national security? So we've been going from town to town. Last week, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Des Moines. We went to Seattle and Bellevue. We were in San Francisco and Palo Alto with this discussion where people are defining national security. It's surprising because what people are telling us is that they define national security as jobs and wages and health care that's nonprofit, as education for their children, as retirement security and a clean environment and safe neighborhoods and nonviolent police. So these are kinds of things that we're hearing. So we're going around the country now, and we're just kind of ending this. Well, we're going to Colorado, next to LA, and then to Colorado, so we can help them with their Initiative 105. But what we know is you don't have to have an office to have an impact. And every one of us here knows that. You have to have a place to stand. It was Archimedes who once wrote that if you give me a place to stand, I can move the world. And so each one of us, all you need is a place to stand. Whether you're at a high school or a workplace or wherever, you take a place to stand. And here in Oregon, you have so many people taking
Hell yeah!
And that's the power that each one of you has. So what Elizabeth and I are endeavoring to do is to help empower people, is to show people how much power each individual has. And when you do that, I'll just leave you with this thought. In 1968, Senator Robert Kennedy went to Cape Town, South Africa, to talk to students there about apartheid. And they believed that there was nothing could be done about it. It would never change. And they were convinced of that. And they wondered, what is this, white senator coming out here and telling us this? And he said something to them which, it was a speech that he gave, and I've remembered it, and many of you may be familiar with what he said to the students who asked him, how can you say this? Aren't we always going to be stuck with this condition of apartheid? And he said something that to me was one of the most powerful things that I've heard anybody say about how one person can make a difference. And this is what I want to share with all of you at this point to help empower each person here to go forth in the next few days to get a resounding yes for 92. What he said was, each time a man or woman stands up for an ideal, acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he or she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples can create a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
Yay!
That's the power you have. You are the ripples. And there'll be a mighty wave sweeping across Oregon when the returns are in and shows a big victory for 92.
election is within our grasp. We can win this. We are this close. Our actions over the next 12 days are literally going to determine if we win or if we lose. We know it's going to be close. It could be as little as a couple thousand votes. We need everybody's help these next 12 days. I have sign-up sheets over here on the clipboards for phone banking, which we'll do this afternoon, door-to-door canvassing for Get Out the Vote. 20 years ago, we had a coup d'etat in the American food system, and the chemical companies that designed GMOs to sell more of their pesticides rolled them out to the American public. We took a look, and we politely said, no thank you. And they said, well, you're going to eat it anyway. And so began a 20-year war against the American consumer, 20 years and $600 million to deny us the right to know what's in our food. That war ends Tuesday, November 4th for us here in Oregon. We're going to win with Measure 92. We need your help to get this done. We can do this. Lots of yard signs. I have, about 800 of them. So please, take some yard signs, put them out, give them to your neighbors.
And Elizabeth and I will stick around here for a few minutes to, we'll stick around here for a few minutes. We can talk to you. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing, go to Kucinich.com, sign up there, and we'll keep you posted as we make our way around. And after this election's brought home, perhaps next year we'll have a chance to come back and talk about those other issues that we kind of intimated here earlier.
Let's thank the Kuciniches so much for coming.